February 10th, 2026. Right now, as you're watching this, something is happening in Peru that nobody is talking about. For 15 years, a half-built airport near Machu Picchu sat rotting in the Andes. Corruption scandals, cancelled contracts, billions in delays. Nothing moved. But then scientists started scanning. And suddenly, Peru can't build that airport fast enough. What you're about to see connects 5 years of discoveries that should have stopped everything to a government that's accelerating the one thing that could destroy it all. And the timing is too perfect to be random. This is what Peru doesn't want you to know about Machu Picchu. To understand what is happening right now, we need to go back to 2023. That year, researchers from Yale University did something nobody had done before at Machu Picchu. They extracted and sequenced the DNA of 34 individuals buried within the citadel walls. These were not random bones found in a ditch. These were carefully interred remains, placed in specific locations throughout the site over centuries. The results were supposed to be routine, a genetic census of who lived and died in what most archaeologists considered a royal estate for the Inca emperor Pachacuti. But the data that came back did not match anything they expected. The DNA profiles of these 34 people did not align with standard Inca highland populations. The genetic diversity was staggering. People from completely different ethnic backgrounds, different regions, different linguistic groups, all buried in one place. This was not a royal retreat. This was something else entirely. And then they found the 6 women. 6 female remains, buried among the others, carried DNA that traced not to the Andes Mountains, but to the Amazon rainforest. Amazonas heritage. Lowland jungle people. Found at an altitude of 2,440 meters in the clouds, at a site supposedly reserved for Inca royalty. One pair stood out, a mother and daughter, buried near each other. When scientists analyzed the isotopes locked in their bones, the chemistry told 2 different stories. The mother's bones showed one dietary and geographic signature. The daughter's showed another. They had lived in different places at different times of their lives, yet both ended up here. This was not random migration. This was deliberate, planned. These women were brought to Machu Picchu on purpose, from hundreds of miles away, through some of the most difficult terrain on the planet. The question that nobody in the Peruvian government wanted to answer was simple. Why? Why bring Amazonian women to a mountain fortress in the clouds? What role did they play? And what does their presence reveal about what Machu Picchu actually was? But that was not even the strangest part. Because while Yale was analyzing bones, someone else was scanning from the sky. In 2024, a team equipped with LiDAR drones flew over sections of Machu Picchu that tourists never see. LiDAR fires millions of laser pulses at the ground and creates 3-dimensional maps of what is underneath vegetation, soil, and even shallow rock layers. It sees what human eyes cannot. The drones flew over the dense, forested slopes surrounding the famous terraces and temples. These were areas that had been classified as natural jungle, untouched wilderness, around a known archaeological site. 12 structures. That is what the LiDAR found. 12 previously unknown buildings and platforms hidden beneath centuries of jungle growth. Structures that had never appeared on any map, any survey, any archaeological record. Buildings that had been sitting there, invisible, for 500 years. The implications were immediate. If 12 structures existed just outside the known boundaries of Machu Picchu, how many more were hiding in the surrounding valleys? How large was the original complex? And why had nobody scanned these areas before? Here is what makes this genuinely unsettling. The areas where these structures were found are restricted zones. Tourists do not go there. Most researchers do not go there. These are sections controlled by the Peruvian government, off limits for decades. 12 buildings, hidden for 5 centuries, found in weeks, in areas nobody was allowed to look. And that discovery opened a door to something even bigger. In 2025, a geologist working with satellite imagery in Brazil noticed something peculiar in the geological data beneath Machu Picchu. 2 major fault lines, each stretching approximately 175 kilometers, cross directly beneath the citadel, forming a perfect X, not near Machu Picchu, not close to it, directly under it. The intersection point sits almost exactly where the main temple complex stands. Now, fault lines usually mean instability, earthquakes, destruction. But when researchers ran computer simulations, over 1,000 earthquake scenarios modeled across every conceivable magnitude and vector, the results defied expectations. Every single simulation showed the same thing. The intersection point of these 2 fault lines is extraordinarily stable. The opposing tectonic forces essentially cancel each other out, creating a geological sweet spot where the ground barely moves even during significant seismic events. The Inca built their most sacred site on the single most earthquake-resistant point in the entire region, a point that requires satellite imaging and advanced geological modeling to identify. Peru experiences major earthquakes regularly. Cusco itself has been devastated multiple times throughout history, but Machu Picchu still stands. It has stood for 500 years with no significant structural damage from seismic activity. Either the Inca got impossibly lucky, choosing this one perfect spot out of thousands of possible mountain locations, or they knew. They understood the geology beneath their feet with a precision that should not have been possible in the 15th century, and the geological surprise connected to something engineers had been documenting for years. When modern engineers began studying Machu Picchu's construction in detail, they discovered that what tourists photograph, the terraces, the temples, the iconic postcard views, represents roughly 40% of the actual engineering, maybe less. 60% of Machu Picchu exists underground. When excavation teams dug 9 feet beneath the visible terraces, they found an elaborate subterranean infrastructure: drainage systems, foundation networks, retaining walls, water channels. An entire hidden city of engineering beneath the one everyone knows. The terraces that tourists admire aren't just agricultural platforms. They're the visible tips of a massive engineering system that manages water flow, prevents erosion, and stabilizes the mountain itself against the very earthquakes those fault lines should be causing. The drainage network alone would be impressive by modern civil engineering standards. Water entering the system at the highest point is channeled through stone-lined conduits, redistributed across dozens of terraces, filtered through gravel layers, and expelled at the base of the mountain. Zero pooling, zero erosion. For 500 years. This invisible infrastructure was built without iron tools, without wheels, without mortar between the precisely fitted stones. And it still functions today. Right now, as you are watching this, ancient Inca drainage systems are managing rainfall on a mountain in Peru better than most modern cities handle their stormwater. The question nobody seems to be asking is the obvious one. If 60% of the engineering is underground and invisible, and LiDAR just found 12 unknown structures in surrounding areas, how much of Machu Picchu has actually been discovered? What percentage of this site have we actually mapped? And that's when things got really interesting, because the precision wasn't just in the plumbing. At the highest point of Machu Picchu sits a carved stone called the Intihuatana. The name translates roughly to the place where the sun is tied. For decades, it was considered a ritual object, ceremonial, decorative. Then someone measured it with GPS satellites. The Intihuatana stone is aligned within 3 degrees of true north. Not magnetic north, which shifts over time, but true north, the geographic pole. It functions as a solar calendar, accurately marking solstices and equinoxes to within 15 minutes. Year-round, century after century, 3 degrees. That's the margin of error for a stone carved 500 years ago by people who supposedly had no advanced astronomical instruments, no telescopes, no precision measurement tools. Modern GPS satellites confirmed what the Inca achieved with carved granite and observation. The level of astronomical precision encoded in this single stone matches what NASA uses for satellite calibration. 500 years ago, at 8,000 feet, with hand tools. And this is the site that Peru just decided needs 8 million tourists a year walking over it. If you're watching this and connecting the same dots I am, you already know something doesn't add up. And if you want to stay ahead of this story as it develops, subscribe to Stellar Insights. I cover the discoveries and the decisions behind them every week, because what happens next is where the timeline stops making sense entirely. January 2026. Peru's Ministry of Culture approves a master plan for Machu Picchu's protection. Conservation guidelines, visitor management protocols, preservation goals extending to 2046. 20 years of careful stewardship. On paper, exactly what the scientists were asking for. 3 weeks later, February 2026. Peru greenlights the Chinchero International Airport. 3 weeks. From protect it to flood it, the airport project had been stalled for 15 years. Corruption investigations tied to the Brazilian construction giant Odebrecht had frozen contracts, canceled bids, and embarrassed everyone involved. Billions of dollars had evaporated into legal battles and political scandals. For over a decade, nothing happened. But suddenly, in early 2026, the project isn't just revived. It's fast-tracked. The target? Operational by late 2027. 18 months from approval to planes landing. The projected tourist capacity is 8 million visitors per year. That is roughly 200% more than current levels. Those visitors would be funneled through a valley that is already struggling with infrastructure, water supply, and waste management. And the runway is being built on top of 600-year-old Inca agricultural terraces in Chinchero. These aren't ruins. These terraces still function. 6 centuries after construction, the irrigation systems work. The drainage performs. The structural engineering holds. It is the same technology that makes Machu Picchu's underground infrastructure possible. It is the same engineering tradition that built the seemingly impossible drainage beneath those famous postcard terraces. Peru is about to pave over working Inca engineering for a runway, and nobody seems bothered by the timing. Here is what the official timeline looks like when you line up the events. 15 years of nothing. The airport sat dead in bureaucratic limbo. Corruption, delays, political turnover. Nothing moved. In 2023, Yale published the DNA findings. Machu Picchu was not what we thought. The population was diverse, planned, deliberately assembled from across the Inca Empire. In 2024, LiDAR revealed 12 hidden structures. The site is bigger than anyone had documented. Restricted areas contain undiscovered archaeology. In 2025, geological scans confirmed the unusual X formation. 1,000 simulations showed deliberate placement. Engineers documented that 60% of the site is invisible underground. In 2026, within weeks of each other, Peru approved a protection plan and greenlit the airport. The capacity study, the official report that will determine whether the region can sustainably handle 8 million visitors, is not due until September 2026. That is 7 months after the airport was approved. Read that again. They approved the airport before the study that determines whether the airport should exist. The report will come out in September. It will almost certainly say what every independent assessment has already said. The Sacred Valley cannot sustainably support that volume of tourism. Water systems, waste management, road infrastructure, archaeological preservation, none of it scales to 8 million. And the airport will open anyway. The decision was made before the data existed. And then there's the money. In 2019, the Odebrecht corruption scandal ripped through South American governments like a Category 5 hurricane. The Brazilian construction conglomerate had paid billions in bribes across 12 countries. Peru was hit hard. Presidents implicated, officials arrested. The Chinchero Airport was one of the contracts tangled in the wreckage. Fast forward to 2026. New contracts, new bidding process, but the same infrastructure web, the same political relationships, the same economic incentives. 8 million tourists per year flowing through a new international airport generates revenue at every level. Airlines, hotels, transport companies, concession holders, tour operators, tax collectors. The money does not flow to archaeologists. It does not fund preservation. It flows to the same networks that have controlled Peruvian infrastructure contracts for decades. Follow the money. It always tells you who benefits and who decides. The scientific community has not been quiet about this. Researchers from Yale, Cambridge, and Japanese archaeological institutions have published warnings. The increased foot traffic, vibration, moisture, and infrastructure development associated with mass tourism at this scale pose direct threats to the site's integrity. Remember, 60% of Machu Picchu is underground. The drainage systems, the foundation networks, the invisible engineering that keeps the mountain from collapsing. That infrastructure has survived 500 years of natural weathering. It has never been tested against 8 million pairs of feet per year. The terraces at Chinchero share the same engineering DNA, the same construction techniques, the same hydrological principles, the same precision. Destroying them for an airport runway does not just erase 600 years of agriculture. It eliminates a living laboratory for understanding how Machu Picchu itself was built. And Peru's response to the scientists? Silence. No published rebuttals, no counter-arguments, no engagement with the data. Just silence and a construction timeline. One side has peer-reviewed research, DNA evidence, LiDAR mapping, geological modeling, and 5 centuries of structural proof. The other side has economic growth projections and a runway blueprint. So here is where we are. Scientists spent 5 years revealing what Machu Picchu really is. Not a vacation palace for an emperor, a deliberately engineered hub of an empire, genetically diverse, geologically perfect, built on an invisible X that should not have been findable without satellites, 60% invisible. A line to the cosmos within 3 degrees. A site so precisely constructed that its plumbing still works after 500 years, and its foundations laugh at earthquakes that flatten modern cities. And now, after all of that, after every scan revealed how complex it is, after every study showed how fragile the ecosystem around it is, after every piece of evidence pointed to something far more significant than a tourist attraction, Peru is rushing to open the floodgates. The capacity report comes in September 2026. The airport opens in late 2027. But here is the question that keeps me up at night. What if this is not really about tourism? What if the scans revealed something that certain people do not want carefully studied? What if what is underground, what is hidden in those restricted zones, what those 12 structures actually contain, is more valuable as a revenue stream than as a research site? I am not saying there is a conspiracy. I am saying the timing does not make sense. I am saying the science is being ignored. I am saying 600-year-old engineering that still functions perfectly is about to be bulldozed for a runway. For an airport project that sat dead for 15 years and suddenly has to be finished in 18 months. September 2026. That is when the capacity report drops. Will it matter? Or was the decision already made years ago? The countdown has started. And Machu Picchu, the impossible city on the impossible X, is caught right in the middle. Follow for updates, because something tells me this story is just getting started.